Recording in progress.
Så kan jag öppna till det, men jag sätter det
cutting boards.
Hello, everyone. Yeah.
Very good evening, everybody, and a warm welcome to another Winemakers Table with Pick and Pay. Thank you all very much for joining us. My name's Dan Nicol. Some of you might know the Dan Nicol Show on Supersport and thinking, well, what on earth is Dan doing with us for an evening of food and wine? Well, it's another great passion of mine, and my other show is in fact a wine show. Dan really likes wine. I think the name is fairly self-explanatory, and it's a show that is very proudly presented in partnership with Pick and Pay, which means I've got a really tough job. I have to drink and sample and appraise loads of great South African wine on a weekly basis. And what that means is it allows me to get a really good understanding of just how good South African wine is. And as somebody who used to travel the world and is starting to do so again, I am very firm in my belief that if you combine value and you combine quality, there is no better winemaking nation on earth than South Africa. And tonight is a night in which we reinforce that quite comprehensively, because tonight we catch up with a brand that does South Africa very proud indeed in a space that is celebrating, because 50 years ago, 1971, the very first Cap Classique was made in South Africa. It was the first time a South African winemaker, a guy called Frans Malan out in the Durbanville area, decided, I'm going to use the French champagne method and make the same kind of wine here in South Africa. Now, we can't call it champagne because that is a trademark of the French and it has to be grown in the Champagne region. So instead, it's exactly the same method, exactly the same process, but we call it Cap Classique. And the Cap Classique we have this evening is from a little estate up in Tulbagh that's got a particular focus on bubbles. But before I tell you a little more about them, let me tell you a little bit more about the evening. The evening's quite simple. You will have received your wine and your ingredients, and a big thank you to Pick and Pay Online and the Pick and Pay Wine Club for ensuring that you got all of that. I hope that your bubbles have been in the fridge, although as Stephan, our winemaker, will tell us, there is an art to getting the temperature just right. You certainly don't want warm bubbles. There are a few things that are less pleasurable to drink, but you don't want them absolutely freezing, or you do tend to lose just a little of the taste and flavor. And I've got no doubt Stephan will talk a little about that later on this evening. You're also going to get taken through the art of making some great dishes by a guy called Jonathan, who, I've got to be honest, I've got mixed feelings about him, because every time I watch him, I get more and more envious at his ability to make the art of producing food quite so simple. And you're going to see that today from a small selection of ingredients. He produces some dazzling food. And by the time this session is done, you're pretty much qualified cordon bleu chefs. So you're in for a real treat over the course of the next hour. You're also in with the opportunity of winning some great prizes. We'd love to see you hashtagging PNP Wine Club and hashtagging Krone and tagging us in photos on social media and making sure that you are part of a broader conversation, which has two reasons. One of them is to win some cool prizes, and we've got some smart shopper points to give away to you at the end, and Jonathan will tell you exactly who's won those and what has happened there. But just as importantly, by putting this up on social media, all of your friends who are not part of this evening will get enormously jealous as you sip some terrific Cap Classique, eat some wonderful food, and have a really good evening with what's become something of a Pick and Pay family. I see a few familiar faces already who've been with us on previous editions of the Pick and Pay Winemakers Table. It's lovely to see all of you back, and a very warm welcome to those of you here for the first time, not though for the last. I know we're going to be seeing plenty more of you as these sessions unfold. So a very warm welcome both to Jonathan and also to Stephan de Beer, who is a guy who oversees the bubbles out in Tulbach at Krone, and that is all they do. It's a complete focus on making Cap Classique. There are no still wines, there's no Sauvignon Blanc, there's no Chardonnay, there's no Shiraz. It is just Cap Classique. There's a range of them. There's some vintages, there's some Rosé, there's some that's a little sweeter, some a little drier, all of which you'll be told about. But know that you're in the hands of somebody who is not just masterful and not just passionate, but is also somebody from Tulbach itself. So he speaks to you as a homeboy of the Tulbach area, and that gives him an added edge when it comes to explaining the magic that he makes out at Krone. So I shall hand over to the studio and to what promises to be a really cool evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you get the chance, do jump over in due course to the Dan Really Likes Wine platforms. We've had the Krone team on the show. We've had loads of top South African winemakers. If you like your wine, but you're not too serious about it, then it's a platform I'd like to think you'd enjoy spending some time on. But for now, let me hand over to the studio. Make sure those first bubbles are poured. Make sure that your food is raring to go. Have a wonderful time. Thank you for being part of it. Have a great night. And Jonathan and Stephan, over to you in the studio.
All right, and welcome everybody, and thank you very much, Dan, for that lovely introduction. We are extremely excited to have you all with us this evening, and welcome everybody. We are on the second last of this year of the Pick and Pay Winemakers Table, but this time really exciting to be with Krone. And I'm here today with Stephan, who is the head winemaker at Krone, and we're going to run through some incredible bubblies with you. We've got 3 amazing Cap Classiques, 2 Demi-Secs, 1 Brut. And we're also going to be making some incredible canapés as well. So just before we start, I'd just like to inform you guys also that you are going to be in a competition to be the best master chef. We'd love to see all of your creations that you are making this evening. So please do use the hashtags. As Dan mentioned, there will be 5 lucky winners who will be able to walk away with 200 rands worth of smart shopper points. So while we get all of this stuff together, you have been delivered your boxes from Pick and Pay online. Thank you very much for that as well. And what we'll do is we're going to start unboxing a few of our canapés. And while we do that, I'd like to introduce you to Stephan, the winemaker from Krone. Would you like to explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing this evening and maybe a little bit about Krone?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. It's absolutely great to be here today. Yeah, so a little bit about Krone. We are a farm called Twee Jonge Gezellen situated in Tulbach Valley, about 120 kilometers northeast of Cape Town, and we specialize in Cap Classique, predominantly Chardonnay, Pinot Noir grapes, a little bit of Pinot Blanc, and the valley is like a little greenhouse surrounded by the Witzenberg Mountains. Absolute perfect terroir for growing this style of wine. We grow this grapes and we pick them quite early in the year to have a less slighter alcohol, because we're going to do a second fermentation, which I'll absolutely explain to you later on in the show. But yeah, so yeah, that's
amazing.
Krone.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting also that Krone is you only specialize in Cap Classiques, which is quite something.
Vintage only Cap Classiques.
That's also
for that
very
matter,
interesting
yeah.
as well. So only vintage.
Vintage only, yes. So we believe that every vintage tells its own story. So every vintage is not the same, and we want to portray that in our wine. So we don't blend away the vintages to have the same wine every year, in and out. So what we do is we take a vintage, we call it the 2019, which we're going to taste today,
Yeah.
and that will give you a little bit of information of what that vintage gave us, what that temperature, that harvest gave us. So yeah, we specialize in vintage Cap Classiques. We have a selection of Bruts, Demi-Secs, Blanc de Blancs, which we're not going to taste today. We're only doing the 2 Demi-Secs and the Brut, but we have Blanc de Blancs. We do fun experiments with amphora wines, and yeah, so we're quite passionate of what we do.
Amazing. Yeah, we have been chatting a little bit earlier on about all the different wines and all of the different bubblies that Krone makes, and I'm really excited about this one. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. We have created 3 incredible canapés, which are going to be paired with the 3 different Cap Classiques as well. So what I want you guys to do is to get your little kitchen ready. If you are with your partner or your friend, I want you to start putting all of your ingredients out. As I mentioned, you would have been delivered your boxes by Pick n Pay online. So you can start unboxing those. You've got lots of little packets. What I like to do is I like to create a little bit of a kitchen here. And as the French call it, a little bit of mise en place by placing all of your ingredients ready to go for our canapés. And as we go, we'll taste a little bit of the bubbly. We'll create the canapé. Make sure that you do take your pictures of it as well. But we'd also love to see and also hear a little bit about what you guys are feeling as you guys are going along as well. So keep your cameras on. We can see you. I've got a little computer over here and I can see exactly what you guys are doing there too. We'd love you to be involved. And if you do have any questions, please just pop them into the chat box as well. And we'd love to answer them as well. All right. So I'd love to get going on this. So we've got 3 bubblies. As I said, we've got 2 Demi-Secs and 1 Brut.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the Brut maybe?
Definitely. We start with the Brut, but we cannot make food without wine in our glasses. So we have to definitely first pour some bubbly.
Good. So you guys at home, open your bubbly as well. I hope that is chilled. I know that we were just chatting about the temperature of bubbly, and Dan was saying that there's nothing worse than a warm bubbly. I can totally agree. But he was also saying that maybe your bubbly could be a little bit too cold at some point.
That is correct. That is correct. So if your bubbly is too cold, then sometimes it just draws in the flavor and you don't get as much flavor as you would need. So you need a perfect temperature. But also there was a question about the bubbles and temperature.
Yes.
Which we're going to get to later.
We will. We certainly will.
Yeah. So you don't make your wine too cold. Just put it in an ice bucket. I usually put ice in and a little bit of water, and then I leave it in there for about 15 minutes, and then you're ready to go. Yeah,
it's important always to add the water to the ice, because then you actually get the full bottle surrounded in the cold temperature.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right. Amazing. So Stephan is opening up the first of our Cap Classiques, which is the Krone Borealis Brut.
The Krone Borealis Vintage Cuvée Brut 2019.
2019.
Predominantly Chardonnay and a little bit splash of Pinot Noir, just to give that more complexity and earthiness to the wine.
Amazing. All right, so fill your glasses up, guys. We're going to be doing an amazing tasting. And while we do that, we're going to start becoming chefs in the kitchen as well. So we're going to start with our first canapé. And we had some really good fun in the kitchen designing these canapés and doing a little bit of pairing. And so what we came up with this time is we've started to do a little duck rillette. So the first canapé is a duck rillette. It's got a little bit of confit lemon, a little bit of fresh thyme sprig, and that's done on a little bit of a Melba toast. So in your boxes, guys, you'll see this little tub of the duck rillette. We've got quite a few of these. So if you want to have more than one, please do. That's basically all of your little Pick n Pay Melba toast, perfect for any sort of canapé. And we've got a little bit of fresh thyme, and we've got inside the packet, we've got a little bit of this confit lemon. And that confit lemon is basically just the rind of the lemon, which we've cooked down. It's important actually when you do have a lemon rind is to actually boil it a little bit, just to remove a little bit of the real sort of like bitterness. And then you're left with a beautiful, really, really nice, zesty flavor. So that's also a little bit of oil, so you can pour that off as well. So while you guys get all of your ingredients ready, should we have a little bit of a taste and have a look at the glass of, geez, that looks beautiful.
Cheers.
Cheers. And you see that we actually aren't drinking in champagne flutes. And when Stephan came, we were like, should we use a champagne flute? He's like, no, please, I'd like to have a wine glass. And I said, okay, love to hear why. And maybe you can explain to the guys
Sure.
at home why.
So there's actually a huge study done on wine and the different wine glasses. So you get like different types of wine and that specific glass to pair with that type of glass. For me, you need a champagne glass that's got a bigger cavity in here, but a smaller opening. So all the flavors get trapped into this cavity and concentrated into the open space. With a flute, what happens, all that flavors just escape. And sometimes you get that burning effect from the bubbles just hitting your face. So all you want to do is you want to fill up the glass with all the flavors that the bubbles bring out of the wine, and then slowly smell the wine and then taste the wine. And for me, just a normal white wine glass is a perfect wine glass to taste bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. And you can really actually get your nose in there, and there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of
Yes.
aromas that sort of come out, and you can actually get a better sort of understanding and better sort of smell of the,
Exactly.
of the bubbly.
Yeah. The flute was always, I think, designed just to see all the bubbles going up, and it needs to look sexy. But
For
if you want to taste the wine and compare it with food, I would recommend like a normal white wine glass.
Straight from the expert's mouth. All right, perfect. We've got a quick question here. So what temperature should the fridge be actually for wine and bubbly? Very good question.
Your normal fridge where you keep your food in, it just depends on how long you'll keep it in. I would say anything from 4 to 6 degrees would be perfect. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, guys, now we're going to be starting to make our canapé. And I'm sure some of you guys are asking, what is duck rillette? How do you make duck rillette? I'll tell you exactly how you do it. So basically what it is that you would get a duck, just like a chicken. Full duck is best on the bone as well, because you get those nice little bit of brown meat. And what you're doing is you would basically put it into a little bit of oil or duck fat, and you would slowly cook it down in that fat. So over time, on a very low oven, it starts to cook very, very slowly. And as that does it, all the meat falls off, and you'll pick up all of that meat, keeping in all of that beautiful duck fat. So you'd flavor it with a few different aromatics, sometimes some juniper berries, sometimes pepper, a little bit of sage, a little bit of good aromatics. And you pick off all of that meat and you shred it. And then basically what you would do is you put it into a little pot like this, pour a little bit of the duck fat over it, and you preserve it. And so this would keep for months just like this. And so it's absolutely beautiful. It's got a really dark, rich flavor. And we chose it specifically because the wine, or the bubbly Cap Classique, has got a fair amount of acidity in it as well.
That's correct. Yeah. So when we make this style of wine, especially the Bruts, we pick the grapes earlier with a higher acidity level, lower pH level, so you don't have to add more sulfur as well. But the acid in the wine carries the flavor on the palate with the bubbles. So that makes the Brut a lot versatile to pair with more rich and fatty foods, which I think is a great pairing with this canapé, because with the richness and the fattiness and the creaminess of this, the acid level in the Borealis will just cut through that straight and will just clean the palate, which makes it a nice pairing.
Amazing. All right, guys. So as we've got our little Melba toast here as well, we're going to start building up our canapé. So place your Melba toast onto your little board that you've been provided with a little Pick and Pay Wine Club sign on it. I want you to get a little teaspoon of this out. Really get in there. There's quite a lot in there. And I want you to just roughly, I mean, rillette is very much like a country kind of French style pate. So you don't need to be making this look like it's anything fancy from a 5-star restaurant. This is all about rustic, beautiful, old French flavors. I mean, they used to do this really to preserve all of their duck and their meat they've had on their farms. So they used to do this as a preservation method, and it's absolutely delicious. So once you pop that onto your Melba toast, we decided to also add a little bit of a freshness to it too. So this is where we had the confit lemon. So as mentioned, you've got this little confit lemon that you guys hopefully have taken out of the little bag of oil. And same thing, preservation. That is something that you can do also, and you can keep it in your larder or in your fridge for many, many, many months. So what I'll do is I'm just going to very, very lightly slice up this little bit of a rind. And when you guys taste it, you'll just taste that freshness. There'll be no bitterness of the rind. It's just a really good freshness to it. And that also really does well for the with the rillette, because it'll also cut through a little bit of that fat as well. So I've just done a few little slices of that. Very rough. Don't need to get too fancy here. And we'll just place that on top. There we go. And then just to end off, we've got a little bit of thyme sprigs. And that just kind of brings out the herbaceous kind of notes of the bubbly as well. So I'll pop that on top, 1 or 2 or 3. There we go. And please, guys, as I've mentioned before, we would love to see what you guys are doing at home. You guys are going to learn a lot. And I'd love to see your creations. I'd love to see what sort of little chefs that you guys are becoming at home. So very, very simple. We've got the Melba toast, a little bit of the duck rillette, a little bit of the freshness of the lemon zest, and that herbaceousness of the thyme, which I think is going to work perfectly. But it's all up to you guys. It's all about you guys trying this as well. So charge your glasses, fill up a little bit, and we'll start a little bit of a pairing. So generally with a food pairing, you take a sip.
Yeah.
Large sip, hopefully. Let it coat your mouth.
Coat your mouth and just clean the palate with the wine.
And the bubbly is perfect for that, because all those bubbles just kind of clean it up completely.
Definitely.
And I'm going to hand over one of our little duck rillettes.
Sure.
There we go.
No need for stuck in.
Pop it all into your mouth. Let that coat your mouth as well. And as I'm sure that you are experiencing, you'll see that beautiful sort of duck fat that'll coat the inside of your mouth, really bringing out those flavors of all of the lemon as well, and that really, really rich flavor. Once you've done that, have another sip of your bubbly as well. Make sure that you move that around your mouth as well, and you'll definitely get that sort of cleanliness as well. So as we mentioned before, take photos. Please use the hashtag PMP Wine Club, as well as the hashtag Krone Cap Classique as well. All right, we'll post that into the chat so you guys know exactly how to spell Cap Classique, but you will not forget it after tonight.
Yeah.
All right, how was that?
That was a beautiful pairing. I mean, that beautiful duck just coated the mouth completely, filled with all the flavors. And then when you take a sip of the Cap Classique, it was just cutting through that straightly and just clean the palate again, just bringing that whole thing into balance.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And yeah, guys, it's all about experimentation as well. So if you are going to do a little pairing for your friends as well, go out to Pick and Pay, stock your fridges full of the wine that's available there. They've got hundreds and thousands of different types of wine and different types of bubbly. Just experiment as well. If you want to change anything up of that as well, you can certainly do a little, maybe a tartar would be quite nice as well. If you wanted to maybe pair it with a little, maybe some pork would be nice as well.
Yeah, pork looks lovely with bubbly.
It does. It's also because of the fat as well.
Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite dishes, to pair bubbly with, is like a pork belly.
For sure. Exactly. That fat, it's really, really rich. It's got a good full flavor. Yeah. And it works really well with this. Lovely. I really enjoyed this. I certainly did. And there certainly are still a lot of bubbles in this glass, Sam.
Yeah, definitely. But that's the thing. So we were talking about how to people that's not going to be able to drink a whole bottle of Krone, how to keep the bubbles in the wine is quite interesting. So there's all the myths about putting a teaspoon in, or all those type of stories, but that's not true at all. So what you have to do is, the science behind it is to keep the bottle as cold as possible, because the cold temperature will retain all those bubbles and keep it dissolved for much longer. So I've actually done it with a normal fridge at around 6 degrees Celsius, and it was fresh 2 days later without any stopper on top of it.
That's amazing. So I mean, I didn't even think about that, or never heard that. Often we talk about how to keep the bubbles in, and the spoon method we know just does not work. It just certainly does not work. Everyone does it. It's cool. But you know what they normally do is they put the spoon and their bottle in the fridge. So then they're like, oh, it works. But anyway, it certainly does. If you've got a cold bubbly, it retains the bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. But when you open a bottle of Krone, you won't keep it off. You will finish it. So
no one ever does. No one ever does. Amazing. All right, cool. So that was a really, really good pairing. I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too. I think we could probably move on to the next one, but I love these bubbly pairings because there's something so enjoyable listening also about the method of this Cap Classique. I know that there was, it used to be called MCC method Cap Classique, and it's now moved over to Cap Classique.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just really about the method from the region Champagne.
Yeah. So yeah, the method is the traditional champagne method, but in South Africa we call it Cap Classique, as Dan mentioned earlier. And I brought a bottle just to explain to you the whole process. But before I show you this bottle, so what we do is we harvest the grapes, and here at Krone we harvest them at night because we want to retain the freshness of the fruit. So if you take a bite of an apple and you expose it to sunlight or temperature, it will go brown. That's called oxidation. So we don't want our grapes to oxidize because that's the flavors that we want to capture in our juice. So we harvest all our grapes between 3 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, and we press the juice and we inoculate it with yeast, and we make a base wine, a low alcohol base wine. And then we clean up the wine. I'm talking about clean up. We filter it and we make a proper white wine from it. And then we re-inoculate it with yeast and add more sugar to it. And while we're doing it, we just keep on mixing the tank. So we've got a white wine, we've got yeast, we've got sugar. We just keep mixing. And then while we're mixing, we bottle. And then the bottle will contain, each bottle will contain an amount of sugar and an amount of yeast. And the fermentation process, and that's where the bubbles come from, all natural process, is from the fermentation process inside the bottle. And here you can see the yeast sediment. This bottle has been riddled just for educational purposes, but normally it will just lie flat on its stomach to have a greater surface area between the wine and the yeast, because the secondary flavors we capture from the yeast. And then after that, we will do a disgorgement. After 15 months of aging, we will do a disgorgement where we will freeze the neck, and then we will shoot out the plug. The pressure in the bottle at that stage will be about 8 bars. So your kaya tire is 2 bars. Your car tire, sorry, is 2 bar. 2 bars, and the bottle inside will be 8 bars. So it's like a little bomb. And then we will freeze the neck, and the pressure will then just shoot out the cap when you can turn it upside down. And then we just do a little dosage liqueur, which will depend on the Night Nectar or the Brut.
That's amazing. And so when you talk about that dosage, so basically the top would come off and you would be left with a little bit of a gap, which you actually still need to fill up that last little bit. And that gap with that last little bit of addition actually really makes the character of the wine.
Yes, exactly. So I can do it with this one, that one I told you. So if you freeze the cap, you can turn it upside down. You're left with quite clear wine like this one. And once you take off that little crown cap, the pressure will just shoot out the plug, leaving you with about a 20 milliliter of space. Yeah. And that's the space we use to depend if we want to have a Brut, which is about 8 grams per liter of sugar, or we have a Demi-Sec, which is about 40 grams per liter of sugar. So that's where there's a
big difference there.
There's a big difference, but it's all about balance. So it's all about balance.
About balancing the acidity with the sugar level, making sure that those are all in line.
Correct. Yes.
And if you had the bottle that if you drank bubbly that was before the dosage, that would be extremely dry.
Yes, but depending on the age on the lease. Okay. So a wine that's quite young, like 12 months on the lease, that will be extremely dry and will be out of balance. So you have to add a little bit of sugar just to bring it back into balance. A wine that's 5 years, 6 years on the lease, sometimes you don't even have to add sugar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So interesting. Amazing. All right, good. So I'm going to put my one glass aside because we're going to start with the second one. And very interesting, it is the Demi-Sec, and the Demi-Sec is creating a bit of a buzz around South Africa and around the world at the moment. And certainly Krone was one of the first with their Night Nectar range. Is that correct?
The Night Nectar, this one.
Exactly. So that's a slightly sweeter one. It's very similar to the Brut. It's just a little bit of a difference in sweetness. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the combination of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir is a lot similar, but we just add a little bit more sugar on the dosage.
Okay, amazing. All right, good. And so what we're going to be doing is we're also going to be pairing that with a great canapé as well. we've come up with something quite fun as well. So what we're doing for the next canapé is we've got a goat's cheese ball, which we've encrusted in some nuts, a little bit of cranberry, a little bit of poppy seed, and we've put that onto a little Parmesan sablé biscuit, which basically in French sablé means sand. So it's quite like a crumbly kind of biscuit with a bit of Parmesan. And we've done a really nice little drizzle of honey on it as well. So similarly before, you've got your little containers. You've got a little ball of goat cheese over there. You've also got a packet of your little nut dusting. Get a little bowl if you can, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be rolling the goat cheese ball in a little bit of this little bit of crust. And we're going to end that off with a little bit of a honey. And the reason why we've done this is because there are a few little notes, and all these components work so well with the Cap Classique of the Night Nectar as well. So we've got our goat's cheese, quite creamy.
Yeah.
A little bit of acidity in the Cap Classique, the Night Nectar as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Cutting through that, very similar to what we were discussing before. When you've got something that's quite rich or quite fatty or quite creamy, it's lovely with when you're doing with the Night Nectar, that acidity level will cut quite nicely through the goat's cheese as well. All right. So are you guys ready? Have you got your bowls? Got your little bowl of your goat's cheese? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it into a little bowl. Cranberries, nice fresh nuttiness, a little bit of poppy seeds in there too. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out that bowl, pop it in there. If you want to bring in the camera a little bit, I can show you here. There we go. There we are. And I'm just going to roll that ball around in the nuts and the poppy seeds, coating everything, making sure that it's nicely coated in that, every last little corner. And that's going to look beautiful also onto our little sablé biscuit. So I'm going to place that on top, just like that. And that's nicely coated. And then finally, you've got your little piping bag, mini little piping bag of a little bit of this honey. And that honey flavor as well is also brought out in this Night Nectar.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to do a small little drizzle. There we go, right on top. This is going to look beautiful as it just slowly cascades over the little goat cheese ball. And this, I guarantee you, is going to taste absolutely delicious. So before we get into tasting that lovely little canapé, get your noses into your glasses. And then what are we finding here on the nose?
There's obviously a little bit more sweeter characters coming through because of the more sugar. So you have your honey, you have your caramel, but also that secondary flavors of the extended lease aging of about 18 months. You do get that nuttiness and that brioche coming out, as well as like a yellow apple skin or a red apple skin as well.
Because it really isn't particularly sweet. It's just got a little bit of a sweetness to kind of, it's so well balanced.
Yeah, it's just that elegant sweetness that just breaks that acidity. It's again just bringing it back into balance.
Amazing. All right, good. And we've also got another question, guys. Please do keep them coming in. Is it okay to keep a Cap Classique for a year in a cellar?
For years in a cellar?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. No, of course. Yeah, you can keep it. Fun fact, you have to store all your Cap Classiques that you buy upright, because the cavity, that little gap that you think is air, is not air, it's carbon dioxide. So nothing can grow with carbon dioxide. You have to keep your cork dry so it expands and keep the pressure in. If you're going to put it flat, the cork will soak up with the pressure, will force the wine into the cork, soaking up all the wine, making it like soft, spongy, and then it will seep out pressure, which will make your bubbly flat. So you have to keep it upright, and then you can store your wine in a dark place for 5, 6, 7 years. But good luck, because the wine doesn't last that long in my house.
All right, amazing. So yes, guys, we're going to get started a little bit with our pairing. So as I said, get your nose in there, start getting those aromas go through, and the same kind of thing with this larger glass. If you do have a larger glass, it certainly won't give you that hit of the carbon dioxide, which is a little bit of a burn in your nose. You'll start really getting those good flavors and those good notes coming through.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. So give a good swig, coat your mouth. Fine bubbles, which I love about this as well. The bubbles are really smooth. They're soft, they're elegant. It's not like drinking a glass of sparkling water where your mouth sort of starts burning.
Yeah.
This is really, really soft and elegant little
Elegant.
bubbles.
Yeah. Very
Excellent.
nice.
All right, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you very much.
There we go. While he's chomping on that, I hope that you guys just start tasting those flavors. You know, so it's all been sort of worked out. You know, we've got the goat's cheese, really, really creaminess, got the acidity of the night nectar. There's a slight little bit of fruitiness, which we've got added some cranberries. There's also a nuttiness as well. And the nuttiness comes from what, the Chardonnay maybe?
Excuse me. The nuttiness is more about the secondary flavors that's extracted from the yeast, from this yeast in the bottle. So that's where we get the nuttiness from. But it's also the Chardonnay component that contributes to that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So there's always obviously, you know, and there's always a slight yeastiness to a champagne or a bubbly, you know, because of that yeast.
Yeah.
And that's also why we decided to add that great little Parmesan sablé. And if you guys want to know how to make that little biscuit, it's super, super simple. It's called what we call a 1, 2, 3 biscuit, which is basically 1 part sugar, 2 parts butter, 3 parts flour. And that's as simple as that. We've just literally grated a little bit of Parmesan cheese into it, given it a little hit of salt to give it a savory note, but you guys can do that at home as well. It's so, so simple. So remember that 1, 2, 3.
That was delicious.
Did you enjoy that?
That was lovely. Pairing with the Night Nectar Demi-Sec was lovely.
Good. And all the ingredients are obviously available at Pick and Pay as well. You can go out and buy these ingredients, do a little bit of a tasting at home if you'd like as well. But as mentioned, go wild. It's all about creativity. Even though we have decided to do it like this, certainly does not mean that you have to do it exactly the same as well. And when it comes to wine and food pairings, creativity is it. It's about experimenting as well.
Exactly.
There's no base rules about what works and what doesn't work. It's all about trying to find the place that you feel happiest in doing it as well.
Exactly, yeah. And just try to experiment as well. Excuse me, the bubbles. Try to experiment as well. Like what tastes good for you on a plate. Like if you have a cheese platter or a meat platter, for that sake, try different wines, different styles, and see how that works on your palate.
Yeah.
And how those two compare, and find the balance between the two, and you open up a whole world for yourself.
No,
doing that.
completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And what, you know, it's quite exciting as well, and interesting, you know, when we're talking about the bubbles, and I was quite interested to what you were saying, and I don't know if everyone heard, is that all of the grapes actually on Krone are picked at when they're at their coldest.
Yes,
Is that
that's
right?
correct.
So,
That's correct.
So in the middle of the night, you guys go out with your tractors,
Yeah.
your lights and your headlamps,
Yeah.
and you pick all the grapes
Yeah.
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, no, we're crazy, eh? Sorry. So what we do is we start harvesting all our grapes at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. The reason for that is if you go touch a bunch of grapes that's hanging on the vine at 9, 10 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yeah.
or in the night, it's still hot, it's still warm. And if you press that, like I explained, it will oxidize quickly. So the temperature, cold is good. If it comes to fruit, cold is always good. So
Yeah.
we decided to save on energy, to save on all those things. And we want to capture the best quality fruit. We decided to start 3 o'clock in the morning. We harvest the grapes when it's absolutely at the coldest. And in Tolbach, we still have cold nights, but in the day it becomes like 40 degrees Celsius. So it makes it also difficult to work during the day, which is an advantage for us because now we pick during the night, and we retain that freshness and that fruitiness from the grapes. Because in a berry skin, all the flavors that you want to capture is just situated underneath the skin of the grape.
Yes.
And once that breaks and in extreme heat, that will oxidize out first, and then you lose it. So we want to just capture that.
Yeah, I love that story. And actually, I thought that the name Krone Borealis was because they picked their grapes at night, but actually It's Krone with the crown and the Borealis being a constellation as well.
The Corona Borealis.
Krone Borealis.
Yeah, so it's just the wordplay there.
I like that story. All right, fantastic. And so, yeah, I mean, we've gone through two incredible bubblies as well. You know, quite different, but quite similar as well. You know, I think that the rise of popularity of a slightly more sweeter Cap Classique is something that we've seen over the last maybe 5 or 6 years or something, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, for the Demi-Sec.
Yeah.
No, definitely. You know, in 2014 we started our first Demi-Sec, and we couldn't believe our eyes how quickly this little, you know, one single bottle just grew. And we actually started, you know, we were always attending wine shows, always attending Cap Classique tastings, and every time guests come past and they say, "Then you have something sweeter, then you have something sweeter." And we decided, well, let's make a Demi-Sec. You know, there's a lot of categories in the Cap Classique or in the champagne range. Let's make a Demi-Sec. And then we made the Demi-Sec, and it actually just skyrocketed. You know, it was absolutely one of our best sellers and still is. So yeah, I think people like it, people want it, but we also make it not too sweet wine. We make it like elegant sweetness.
Exactly. And I think that is what sometimes people, if you haven't tried it, sometimes maybe they think, oh, it's a very, very sweet, sweet bubbly. But if you drink it, it's not overly sweet.
No, it's not
it
overly
doesn't
sweet.
hit you with that sweetness. It's so well balanced that it's just acidity and
just finding
also
that sweet spot between the acid and the sugar and just creating a perfect Demi-Sec.
I love it. I really do. All right, amazing. Cool. So Demi-Sec, we're also going to be trying a second Demi-Sec as well.
Yes, we are. Yeah, the Rosé Demi-Sec. So this is basically, you can see it's slightly pinker as well because it contains more of the Pinot Noir grape. And the Pinot Noir grape is a red berry and the Chardonnay is a white berry. So now it contains more red berries. And how you extract the red color from the berries is depends from vintage to vintage for us, because we are vintage only Cap Classique.
Yeah. Do we want to maybe just talk a little bit about that as well? Because that's something that's really, really interesting is that, you know, a lot of wineries, even in France, they have non-vintages and they also have vintages. And the difference between a vintage and non-vintage is that the non-vintage, they are blending different years. They're
blending different vintages, so different years. They're blending together, keeping a certain amount of reserve wine to add to the blend, just to let all the bottles every year in, every year out taste exactly the same.
Yes. So they want to create consistency
into their brand. So that's the non-vintage range, where we believe that every vintage in South Africa, we have abundance of sun. We have in Tulbagh, we're fortunate enough to have abundance of water as well. So we actually want to tell the story of what that vintage actually did to the grapes and how we experience that in the cellar as well. So we take each vintage and we try to make the best wine from that vintage, and then we bottle it, and we're trying to tell the story of sometimes the Pinot Noir will be darker, sometimes the Pinot Noir will be lighter. That's just because of the vintage. We have older vines, we have younger vines, we have vines on sandy soils, vines on rocky soils. So we're literally trying just to tell everybody, every vintage has a great story to tell, and we're trying to tell it in the wines.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I really do. I mean, people will always, what I like about it is that you always would say, I've got a 2016 Krone, you know, and everyone's like, oh my God, that was an amazing vintage. You know, that was an amazing bottle. And I love the fact that also you're not too worried about the fact that if it does change a little bit of color, it is what it is. It is about the year. It is about the environment. It's about the sun levels. It's about the drought that we had a couple of years ago. And you'll taste that in the wine.
Exactly. No, for sure. But, you know, sometimes you get a Pinot Noir and you extract it and you press it and the juice comes out completely white.
Yeah.
So all you do is you take another batch of Pinot Noir, you pick the grapes and you just leave it a little bit on the skins to extract some more color, and boom, voila, there you have your color. So we're still trying to stick to our look and our style and our style of Cap Classique. We're still trying to stick and not change too much for what we are, but we just want to to incorporate the story of the vintage as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so that's the Night Nectar Rosé. So also a fun fact, because it's got more Pinot Noir in it, you'll have more red berry flavors, more strawberry, cranberry, all those little red berries. That's the characteristics of a Pinot Noir.
Yes.
And also a Pinot Noir ages 2 times faster in the bottle than the Chardonnay. So if you buy a predominantly Pinot Noir Cap Classique, try to drink it quicker than the predominantly Chardonnay Cap Classiques, because the evolution of the grape is 2 times faster inside the bottle on the cork.
That's incredible. I didn't know that at all. And it looks beautiful. It's got like a beautiful light salmon color.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Flint bottle.
Flint bottle, exactly. No, it's beautiful. So guys, take out your next bottle. Hopefully that is nice and iced as well. Pop that into your glasses. And as you'll see, there we go. Pour it up. There we go. And we were also talking about how a wine glass, and we were talking about the champagne flute as well, is that champagne flutes will always have what they call like maybe a nucleus or something within a little scratch inside the glass.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
That the bubbles actually attach to.
Yes, definitely. So if you have a totally impure or a pure glass surface, so there's no scratches, there's no dust, there's no soap, it's 100% perfect. There's no bubble that will form from that glass. You need
It's completely smooth.
If it's completely smooth, you need a little bit of impurity or scratch for the bubble to latch onto and create and go upwards. And so that's why in champagne and Cap Classique glasses, you usually at the stem, right where the stem meets the glass, you'll have a little bit of a scratch, and that's where the bubbles come quite neatly up in the center of the glass and create like a little flower, which will just have a little bit of an explosion of the flavor into the cavity of the glass going in the center.
There's a lot of science that goes behind this.
A lot of science. I can talk all day.
I know, and I was very jealous about what you were saying as well before, was that basically he spends his whole life just experimenting, trying new things. And it basically, as much as it is rewarding, sometimes the reward takes a little bit of a time to actually get that reward. So if you are experimenting, you're trying to change things, you're trying to create a different bubbly, you only can taste that bubbly, what, 3 years later?
Yeah, so that's the thing, you know, you find something out, you try something new, something exciting, and we're gonna use clay pots, and we're gonna use big wooden barrels, and we're gonna put the wine on the roof or whatever you want to do, just to experiment and see how they change the wines. You have to wait at least for Cap Classique, at least 12 months, but for experimental wines, we use the best grapes and we use the best wine. So that's at least 3 years. So every year we taste 3 years of previous, experiments. So you have to go back to your notes. Okay, this is what I did. This is what I did, and yeah. So it makes it super exciting every day, and we taste bubbly basically every week just to see how and what to do different and what is out there, what needs to be discovered.
And then once you've done those experiments and you come across something that is absolutely amazing, you're like, right, this is ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's get some bottles. Let's get some designs. Let's put this on the market.
Yeah. So it's not as easy as that, because not all experiments work.
Of course.
But it's quite funny. So, but yeah, we have a plan of what we want to do. And like, for instance, our Blanc de Blancs, we're creating, and I think we're the first ones in South Africa as well that do the terroir specific and site specific Cap Classique. And that's called the Krone Night. And today we have the 2016 on the market, and we're still working on the different vintages as well. Super wine, but we are working on other specific terroirs as well to compare that Chardonnay from different terroirs, Chardonnay from Tilburg, Chardonnay from Stellenbosch, Chardonnay from the Swartland. They're all different, even if it's the same vintage. They don't taste the same.
Incredible.
And that's what we're trying to do, like single blocks, small parcels, terroir specific, Cap Classique right next to each other.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So as you guys know, you've pulled your little glasses here. You can see that is a beautiful salmon color. It's light pink, lovely little bubbles through. And this is going to say, definitely getting some berry notes from that.
Yeah, some strawberry, cranberry, definitely. A nice earthiness to it. Well, as well with the Pinot Noir coming through. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what we're going to do is we're going to pair that with our final canapé for this evening. A little bit of a dessert option now, a little bit of something which is slightly sweeter, something that falls also in line with the kind of color, the beautiful color. And we always eat with our eyes, and we also kind of associate with our eyes as well. So we've created these really cute little macaroon shells, which we also have. You've got 2 each. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a little macaroon sandwich. So onto your board, I'll use this board over here. You've got 2 little shells and you're going to place them onto the board. Right. So also components of this dish, we've got a great berry gel that's got a little bit of acidity. Very simple as well to create this at home. If you've got any fresh berries or even frozen berries, you'll pop this into a pot, a little bit of sugar, tiny little bit of water, and maybe a squeeze of lemon juice. And you cook that down until it becomes a bit of a jam, blitz it up, and you've got this beautiful little berry gel. Right. And then we've also got some buttercream icing here as well. Also very, very simple. Butter, a little bit of icing sugar. And what we're going to do is we're going to create this little macaron. You'll find these macarons in some beautiful little French pastry stores, but actually they are super, super easy. If you don't want to be making these, which could be a little bit hard, Pick n Pay are also making some beautiful little macarons, which are available in their bakery as well. So what we're going to do with our components, we've got 4 different components. We've got our macaroon shells, we've got a buttercream icing, a little bit of the berry gel, and over here, which is quite interesting as well, is this. It's a strawberry dust. Strawberry dust sounds very fancy, but all we've done is basically taken strawberries, sliced them, put them into the oven on a very, very low temperature, probably about 80 degrees. You leave them there overnight. They become all dry. You blitz them up, and you end up with this really flavorful. Let me give this to you. Taste that. A little bit of a flavorful. And this is just 100% strawberries. That's all it is.
Wow.
Nice, fresh flavor, good zinginess to it as well. All right.
Concentrated as well.
Super concentrated, exactly. So I think that what we can do is you guys can get super creative as well. We've also got a little bit of our toasted coconut. If you want to put this inside, you can. If you want to put it outside, you can as well. But I'll show you how I'm going to be doing it. Okay. So I'm going to start off with just snipping off the 2 ends of our piping bags over there. And what I'll do is I'm going to put a small little dollop. If you guys want to bring in the camera a little bit over here, there we go. I'm going to put a small little dollop in the middle of our berry gel. There we go. And create a little bit of a center of that. And then I'm going to take my buttercream icing, and you can either go around in a little circle around the outside, just like that. Or if you want to get nice and fancy, you can do little dollops around like that. There we go. And just turn it around. Do little nice little crowns around the macaron. And that macaron, basically, if you did ever want to make it, it's quite a simple it's basically almonds, egg whites, a little bit of sugar, and
fantastic.
Mix it and that's it. So a little bit of white chocolate, buttercream over there. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add my toasted coconut in the center as well. So you'll end up with a bit of a nuttiness, a little bit of a crunch to it too. And that might be quite nice. I'll pop that right into the center of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up sandwiching it together. There we go. And then finally, just to give it that nice fresh flavor of the strawberry, I'm going to just dust that over it. There we go. Just like that. All right. So you guys, if you ever did this at a dinner party, you would seriously impress your friends. But it is so simple. It's just 4 different ingredients. You can all the stuff actually you can buy at Pick n Pay, even buy your little macaroons as well. So what we're going to do is the same kind of vibe. We're going to have a little sip of our bubbly. Cheers. Same really delicate bubbles and nice acidity as well. As I said, it doesn't feel too sweet at all.
No. It's just, like I said, it's just that balance that we're trying to find. So it's like that elegant sweetness without being it too cluey or chewy,
Yeah.
like a too sweet. So all these base wines contains a huge amount of acidity. So we're trying to balance it in with the category that it's called, with the demi-sec. So you don't want that sweet and sour effect. You just want that balance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bringing out that fruit character as well. That sugar just brings out that rich, sweet strawberry characters. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is really why we've tried to pair this so beautifully with it. And I think that we have almost nailed it. I haven't given it over to the taste tester himself to give us the final thumbs up, but I honestly think that it could work. And I'm going to hand that over to do the final little tasting. Look how beautiful that looks over there. I'm going to just bring your camera in there. Bring it in. Nice one. All right, perfect. Cool. So have a little taste of that. And let me know what you think. We do have a question as well. What temperature should we be drying out our strawberries at? Very low temperature. The longer, the better. Probably, as I said, around about like 60 to 80 degrees. Slice them, put them into your fridge, into your oven, and cook those overnight until they've dried out. Then you just give it a little bit of a blitz up in a blender or coffee grinder, and then you can keep that for as long as you want.
I love macaroons.
Yeah, a perfect little end off to a very good pairing, because I think that the white chocolate, also creaminess, the same thing.
Yeah,
it's a similar kind of acidity level with the other demi-sec. Is that right?
That's 100%. And that red berry character is coming from the wine, and the strawberry, the dried strawberry, and the pink, and then you got the white chocolate with the creaminess of the sweetness of the demi-sec. It just, everything works together.
Perfect. We've got a little question here: which Pick n Pay sells macaroons? My local one does. I know that, and I live in Claremont, so I go to the Rosemead Pick n Pay, and I know 100% that they sell them there as well. And I also know that the Waterfront is also selling them as well. So in Cape Town, I know personally they do there, and hopefully also in Johannesburg they are too. But I'm pretty sure that they will. All right. And if you do want to just create something similar as well, you can also just open it up yourself, take out the inside, and fill it with anything else that you want as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that it worked. Eh?
It's beautiful.
Nice little freshness as well.
I'm gonna have the rest.
You have the rest, exactly. Nice one. It really is. It's when you're talking about these pairings as well, it's also quite important that we sort of start off with something that's a little bit maybe more acidic, something that's a little bit more bolder. And as you kind of go, you work your way down to something a little bit more smooth, a little bit softer.
Dessert style, yeah. So you start off with your bruts and your rich foods and then you end off with something more elegant and sweet and more, that's got a little bit of finesse. So I think this is the best lineup
of this
on this canapé pairing. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, exactly. And it's anything. Those bubbles are small. We were talking about bubbles earlier on as well, and there's what sort of changes the bubbles? I mean, obviously, is it the amount of time that it spends on the lees, or is it what sort of makes those bubbles slightly bigger, maybe smaller, more elegant?
Good question. So there's also a lot of science behind that, which is to do with protein stability. But if you want to make your wine protein stable, there's 2 million types of proteins, not really, but there's a lot of proteins in your wine that you need to get stabilized. So for me, the quickest and simple answer is time on the lees.
Sure.
So if you make your wine slightly protein stable and you make your wine cold stable and you just make a beautiful base wine and you bottle it, the longer you will keep it on the lees, the finer the bubble will become.
Okay.
Not less bubbles, because it won't lose gas, so there won't be less bubbles. So the bubbles will just get smaller and smaller and smaller. So that perfect spot of where you should open the bottle and what size the bubble must be is personal preference. And also with the lees aging. So I would say anything from 19 months all the way to 3 years is a sweet spot.
Amazing. Yeah, it's been really, really educational and really insightful to chat to you. I wish I could come over to the farm.
You're more than welcome.
In Tilbach. You guys also should nip over there and come see what they're doing there. It is an amazing, amazing bubbly that you guys are doing. And I'd love to also find out a little bit more, maybe when I'm there, about all of the other Cap Classiques that you're doing as well.
No, for sure. We have a beautiful tasting room where we let the guests taste we have everything on the lineup. So yeah, no, definitely everyone's welcome to come and join Twee Jonge Gezellen for a nice tasting.
Amazing. Yeah, we must definitely do that. And I hope you guys have also taken some pictures of your creations, a little bit of evidence as to what you guys have done at home as well, because we do also have our 5 winners, which we have selected from all of the social media pics that you guys have presented. And thank you so much. It has been very, very insightful and also very, very impressive to see what you guys have been doing. So we do have 5 winners. We do have number 1 is Chartel Harry. Well done. Kerry-Ann Trainer, Alicia Norki, Michelle van der Pfeiffer, and Mangaliso as well. So well done, guys. You guys will be contacted by the team from Pick and Pay Wine Club, who will inform you how that your points are going to be loaded as well. So I just want to say thank you, Stephan. That was a really, really good tasting, and I would really appreciate you coming out here tonight.
It's only my pleasure, and we'll do it again.
Please do. It really was. So thank you very, very much. And thank you also to Pick and Pay Wine Club, our sponsors as well, Krone, as well as the Pick and Pay Online for delivering those boxes as well. And not only have your guys at home, your Smart Shopper cards have been loaded with 25% off these amazing Cap Classiques, which you guys are very, very lucky. And over and above that, you guys have also received a 100 Rand voucher, which you could be used on Pick and Pay Online as well. So not only that, 25% off, a 100 Rand voucher as well. And hopefully you guys are also Pick and Pay Wine Club members, which I'm sure that you all are. And so with a Pick and Pay Wine Club member, not only do you receive 20% off beautiful 10 selected wines per month, you get free delivery when you use the code Wine Club. And you also, not only that, but you also get discounts into great events like these as well. So please look out and make sure that you have also signed up for all of the newsletters to receive all of these great deals as well. And maybe also in your inbox, look out if you haven't enjoyed it as well. Please also look out in your inbox that you will find an invitation for the next one, which we'll be doing on the 9th of December with JC LaRue. But please, as I said before, make sure that these photos have been posted to social media. We'd love to see what you guys are doing. And also we'd love to hear a little bit about what you felt about the session as well. If there's something that you'd like to add or a little bit something that you love to talk about, we are also posting the survey code into the chat box as well. So take that, do the survey, let us know how you guys are feeling, and we'd love to see you for the next one. And thank you very much, Stephan. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for you guys joining at home. I hope you had an incredible evening. We really learned a lot. I hope that you did as well. And hopefully we'll see you the next one on the 9th of December. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for an awesome evening.
See you all next time, eh?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Indeed.
Thank you. Bye. Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Classic.
Mandy likes macaroons, and we can make her a macaroon.
We can make her a macaroon. Leave.
Okay. Leave.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye. Have a great evening. Yep.